Opening day 2025, our sixth opening day at Run Pure Sports for Major League Baseball. And as usual, we couldn't be any more excited to join you in the middle of the day on Thursday. These games going to kick off with an early two-game slate at 3 o'clock. The Yankees start what has started to look like just a season to forget already, not even into the season, on that two-gamer. And then we get the main slate, 9 games. We already have a pitching scratch, which we don't see often in Major League Baseball. We've been dealing with NBA the last month and the ridiculousness of that. And apparently Tanner Bybee ate some bad sushi or something like that. So he won't be starting. It'll be Ben Lively, but we're going to break down all the games, all the pitching. There are a ton of aces, maybe aces, guys hoping to come back from injury like a Sandy Alcantara, who is pitching today. And the Discord has been alive. So if you're not already in the Discord, go ahead and get in there. We had all sorts of takes this morning. Cases made for DC, almost every pitcher on the slate. There were a lot of people talking about why this pitcher wasn't in the playbook. What about this team? I saw someone say Marlins stacks. So obviously the drugs are flowing as well early on this opening day, DC. But you've got the Twins jersey. You are ready for, well, if it weren't for Royce Lewis, we would say you're fully healthy squad for one day. But no, you can't even have that. At least today you'll have Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton. They get to take on Sonny Gray, who's been feeling under weather. But first, foremost, happy opening day. How are you?
I'm great. Couldn't be better here on one of my favorite days, honestly, for the entire year, sports or otherwise. Opening day, 2025 baseball season. You know, you and me have been, we've been, especially you, we've been in the NBA streets all winter long, talking hoops, dealing with late scratches. I was going to go on a whole long rant about the NBA here on baseball day, JT, But now, you know, with Bybee scratch, it kind of took the wind out of those sails a little bit. We already got a late scratch in baseball. But in general, the switch is nice. We kind of know, for the most part, who's going to be in lineups. Frankly, even if we don't have the lineups, there's not many late scratches, as you mentioned. And, yeah, the best DFS sport in the world, at least from where I'm sitting, MLB, happy to be back. And honestly, I know a lot of people in chat have been people who have – followed our work at RPS or my work elsewhere for a lot of years. So appreciate the support. Do not take it for granted. Love talking ball with JT, with everybody else here at RPS. And hopefully going to be another strong season. I know we had a good one last year. Me, you, Boyden, AP, everybody on the baseball team, stats, of course. And we'll do it again and do it better. So welcome to everybody. Do appreciate you being here. Going to be a lot of winners picked on this show. On RPS, like you mentioned, the Discord is popping. JT, not as popping as it's going to be when our stacks go down 1, 2, 3 in the top of the first inning in 4 hours time, but popping nonetheless. And very excited to talk some ball. And we'll see how it turns out today. Like you mentioned, we do have those 2 early games, Milwaukee and the Yankees, Baltimore and Toronto, that are on the FanDuel main slate. Still, obviously, plenty of times to adjust for those, but of course, here on opening day, we couldn't get the 2 big sites to just line up their main slate, of course, right? We got to get the split start here on day 1 of the year, but yeah, like I said, excited. One of the things about baseball, JT, the NBA is like this too, but there are a lot of slates coming. It's easy to get overhyped, right, on the first day of the season, but in the end, it is just one slate of what, like 300 slates if you're really grinding baseball. So, we won't put all our eggs in one basket today on opening day, but hopefully we'll get in the black here on the first day of the year.
Yeah, definitely a certain energy in the Discord, DC, right? I mean, I was in the NBA Discord last night. I played the NBA last night, and it's a different energy. The NBA Discord now is almost this weary, oh my God, what else can happen to me? And everyone's a winner so far in Major League Baseball. You mentioned the Discord popping, and because it's you and I have to talk about maybe the first time that our Discord popped, and it was you and I going back and forth, Shane McClanahan's debut. And it led to all sorts of fun and hijinks and you shaving your head as well, which was on air, which was amazing. And we're going to hope to replicate some of that energy throughout this MLB season.
Matt Chapman was the player that got me, and it's funny because this was like very, very early in Shane McClanahan's big league career. So I was kind of right about the talent. I mean, he's a Cy Young level talent. Obviously, has dealt with injury, but you were right that day. Matt Chapman did take him deep. So yeah, good start to our. Was that like the first show we did together? It had to be among.
That was early on, maybe the second season of MLB at RPS. That was from then on. It was like, all right, we got a little thing where we can go back and forth on these players, and you've gotten the best of me on some of these guys, certainly some of these pitchers. So, but we'll talk through it today, DC, and it is, you look at the ownership, it's a little bit condensed. We have, it seems like one guy, maybe two guys that stand above the others, at least for me, in terms of talent, not so much in leash, but obviously everything that Paul Skeens did last season. He gets an opening day start here against the Marlins, who I don't even know how to describe this franchise. They look like they're going to stay in Miami. They're maybe going to try and rebuild for the 87th time in something like 30 years. So it's not a major league lineup. Let's just start that out. So Paul Skeens, the most talented young pitcher in baseball against not a major league lineup. He is the most expensive pitcher on the slate, $10K. Then you've got Zach Wheeler against the Marlins, who, look, Marlins end of last season, a lot of talent, a lot of scrappy talent, a lot of guys who put the ball in play. Wheeler's 9,500. Chris Sale, 9,300 against a Padres team that really didn't do a whole hell of a lot. And another interesting story there because of the issues with ownership over the offseason. What are they going to be like? Looks like they're going to be kind of an aging carcass in the West. That's my opinion early on. Garrett Crochet is the other guy here at 9K. He gets a Texas lineup that through most of last year was very, very poor and strikeout heavy against left-handed pitching. And we remember the concerns about Garrett Crochet from last season, but that's because the White Sox knew they had an asset. They're another franchise who doesn't really know how to manage those things. It's going to be a different story here for Crochet this year with the Red Sox. I believe he's at 9K. That's the upper tier. Then we've got Kikuchi, who was going against a White Sox team that's also a minor league lineup for the most part, and a couple of other guys, Hunter Green, that people are interested in. Talk us through your valuation of pitching. Who are your top two guys that you're going to try and get the most exposure to?
Yeah, I mean, people who have followed my content over the years know that I would like nothing better, JT, than to have some 4.5K crap-tastic pitcher that's going to be 2% owned, that I can stake my claim with and take some victory laps. And honestly, those days are coming, and they're not going to be far down the road. I think by like Sunday, Monday, you start getting to these 3 or 4 starters, number 3 and 4 starters. We're going to have some situations where there's going to be some low-end guys that I like. I mean, I've got a long list of them that I think are going to outperform their early season projections. I say all that because today is not that day. Today, I think, is a day when you take the gift of the free square, in my opinion, that sometimes the DFS gods offer you. To me, with Paul Skeens today, that's the situation that we have for a number of reasons. One, it's opening day, and prices are kind of all over the place, right? Like, we've got plenty of value from some rookies, guys that DraftKings and FanDuel had to come up with these prices long before opening day lineups were set. So we do have the value to pay for pitching is one. And two, I mean, Skeens and Crochet on a very short list of pitchers who could claim to be the best in baseball. Now, it is opening day. Wheeler could be on that list. Sale, I think you could make a case for Reagan's kind of on that short list. But for me, Skeens is probably going to end up being on a tier of his own, I think, kind of when it's all said and done. He's the guy coming up, right now, youngster. He's got everything going for him. All the pitches, command, success. We've already seen it for a half season from Skeens. And you mentioned this Miami lineup. I mean, this is like, you start to get some watered down lineups, at the end of the year, like you do in basketball. It happens in baseball too. But this is as bad as any lineup that we saw last year here on the first day of the season. Skeens is stretched out to, I think he'll throw a 90, 100 pitches here in this outing, absolutely gassing people in spring training, touching 100, 101 with the fastball. He's got everything. And JT, we just got the umpires. We're getting lineups rolling in here, umpires coming in too. He gets Bill Miller behind the plate, like one of the very, very best pitchers, umpires in all of baseball. Tons of strikeouts to be had against this Marlins lineup. It's a good place to pitch. They've really got no punch at all in terms of power. I just don't see where it goes wrong for Skeens here. I think his floor is closer to what he's being projected at, around 20. I kind of think that's a realistic floor for Skeens. And then the bigger thing, JT, we're trying to win, GPPs. We're trying to win tournaments. I think Skeens could easily put up 40-plus fantasy points here and be an absolute must-have. Like, I think he's going to want to make a statement. He's one of the bigger stories. He's good to go. Again, we're going to see teams be cautious with their pitchers. I don't really think so with Skeens to open the year. So I'm expecting 6+ innings out of him. I really think he's got a good shot at double-digit strikeouts. Honestly, in general, I'm going to lean more on what I think are very efficient prop markets, both for pitchers and hitters this year than I have in other years. But this one, I think the props have this one wrong. I think Skeens' out props, his strikeout props should all be higher than they are. It does worry me a little bit. That's the only thing kind of keeping me or making me nervous from Skeens. But I'm locking him in, FanDuel, DraftKings, playing 150 today. Right now, I've got the lock button on Paul Skeens. I think he's going to deliver. So I'm sending it with Mr. Skeens, despite many good options. Beyond him, I've got Crochet too, JT, but not by that much over Sale and Wheeler there at the top end. Curious how you kind of rank those top four guys. I do think there is a drop off after that 4-man high-priced tier on DraftKings of Skeens, Wheeler, Sale, and Crochet. I've got Crochet 2, Sale 3, Wheeler 4, but Skeens the clear 1. What are you going to end up doing with those top four guys?
Yeah, so I'm high on Skeens as well. I tend to think the strikeout prop is low, but I think the outs prop maybe just a little bit low. I think you could see 6, but I especially with Jared Jones going down to injury, this is an organization that I don't know how far they're going to push him on day one, right? I think if he's efficient, which here's the key, if he's very efficient, which is entirely possible. In fact, it's probably the most possible outcome. He
should be able to, if he wants to, just rear back and throw fastballs against this team. I mean, there's just not really any threat, right? So I think he could absolutely cruise. I think he's throwing 6+ innings, but go ahead.
So I think if he's efficient, 6 is there. I don't know if he'll get into the 7th. It depends a lot on how this game goes. What does Sandy Alcantara look like? If Sandy Alcantara looks like he did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe there's a need to push him into the 7th. If Sandy's a little rusty, if the Marlins do what we expect the Marlins are going to do, which is maybe 4 1/3 out of Sandy, 5 max out of Sandy, then you get that bullpen. Well, then maybe there's a little bit less of a reason to push a Paul Skeens, especially when you're thinking about a team that really isn't going to put up much of an offensive fight. He's still my number 1. Doesn't change it. I'm not going to lock him. I'm probably going to be over the field. He's at 40%. Maybe I'll be somewhere in the 60% range, maybe a little bit more than that. I like Crochet here, 9K. Like I said, Rangers had some issues against left-handed pitching last season, and we saw that Crochet was getting 20 to 25 fantasy points in 4 innings. I mean, if he gets 5 here, let's say the Red Sox, score a couple of runs, can get a win. I mean, 30 is not out of the realm of possibility for Crochet. Maybe a little bit more if he's, again, similarly efficient as we would expect Paul Skeens to be. Then you've got Sale. I think Sale's a good option here. I mean, Sale, reigning Cy Young winner. No reason from his spring to expect that there's going to be anything different from him this season. So Wheeler is the odd man out for me against that Nationals lineup. I'm not going to not have no Wheeler, but 5%, maybe just a sprinkle couple of lineups here. But let's talk DC about some of these other guys. And the one guy, I'll start with this guy. And I'm obviously hoping to see the Braves turn it around this season and do very well and stay healthy to some degree, right? But Michael King is getting no ownership at 8K against the Braves lineup that struck out a ton last season in a pitcher's park. That seems like a guy that I want to be a little bit over the field on. You've got Kikuchi is popular. Again, he had a very good season last year facing the White Sox. Hunter Green getting a little bit of ownership here. Cole Ragans against the Cleveland Guardians. What are your thoughts here at the lower level? And start with Michael King and tell me if you have any interest in him out in that game in San Diego.
Yeah, so obviously on opening day, most of these teams going with, their aces, of course, here on the first day of the year. A couple exceptions. The White Sox have nothing resembling an ace or, frankly, a big league starter because they're going to be rolling with Mr. Sean Burke, who I'm guessing many of our loyal watchers here have probably never heard of until maybe right now or prior to the show when they're building lineups.
2 weeks ago when he was announced as the opening day starter after getting shelled all spring. Right.
He honestly has – I don't even think he should be in a big league rotation at all. Never mind starting here on opening day. We'll get to, of course, bats and going against Sean Burke in due time. Michael King, I have no problem with the King play. To me, there are easier routes. Of course, with Skeens, locking in Skeens, it's going to limit a little bit the flexibility. Just so many pitchers to choose from. So I have no problem with King. It's not going to be where I end up. Like I said, I love Crochet. I like Sale. And then I like Sandy Alcantara too. One of the key points of contention so far in the MLB Discord is Sandy Alcantara's leash today. I tend to think that we're going to see the Alcantara that we saw. Did he win the Cy Young 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
I remember it was 2 or 3 years.
That version of him. Missed all of last year due to injury. Has looked good this spring. I believe stretched out to 85-ish pitches on the backfield. It's not a real spring training start, but I think he should be good to go. They are going to trade him almost certainly. So that's kind of one of the points people think, they're not going to really stretch him out. I kind of think they're going to, have him prove his health. He didn't throw anything last year. So, I'm not expecting 100-plus pitches from Alcantara, but I do think he's got a good chance to get to 90 at home against a bad Pittsburgh offense. I think Alcantara could go 6 strong here. So I do like him some at 7,700. Looks like he'll be lower owned. I don't think, though, JT, that he has the same upside as a Hunter Green, who I think is way more – he is. He's way more of a boom bust pitcher than Alcantara is. A lot of strikeouts. Can also have home run issues. Obviously pitches in Cincinnati, which isn't ideal. Giants do have some power. He can be wild at times, but 7,400 for Hunter Green, to me, needs to be in the pool. I think he could be. He's one of the pitchers who could beat Skeens, even if Skeens gets 8 or 9 strikeouts. You could see double-digit out of Green on any given start, including today. So I like him quite a bit. And then I do think we're going to see a lot of people go to Angels lefty Yusei Kikuchi here. Hard to argue with it, right? The White Sox, listen, I actually think their lineup is quite a bit better than what Miami is throwing out there. But that's more a testament to just how bad Miami's lineup is than it is to any praise about the White Sox. So Kikuchi, very nice price point there of $6,900. I do like him quite a bit. I think we could see strikeouts for him. Hard to argue with that he will be popular. Do we have updated ownership projections on Kikuchi? We're going to see 30% on him? Something like that, I think makes sense for Kikuchi. I think he's a good play, even at that price point. And then if we're trying to get away from, some of the more popular options, I do like the Phillies bats here, JT, but Mackenzie Gore at 6,600, I think provides a lot of upside too. Again, a lot of risk kind of in the Hunter Green pile, if you will, but Gore is a live arm. Clearly the Nationals #1. They'll let him go deep into games if he's pitching well. Again, a dangerous matchup against Philly, no question about it. But there are also plenty of strikeouts to be had against this lineup. 6,600 for Gore. He's capable of a big game. So that's that's kind of my list. A lot of Skeens. I like Crochet a ton. Sale, Alcantara, Green, and Kikuchi and Gore, I guess. What was that? 6 guys on 150 lineups. I think something like that for me. Maybe mixing in a couple of these other guys, but that's kind of my list. Really, really like some of those cheap guys, Kikuchi, Green, and Gore down there. If you are trying to, fit in some of the bigger bats, which I think is a pretty good move today. I think some of these studs are in pretty good spots overall.
Give you guys just the point per dollar projections from our guy Captain here, whose projections for pitching especially were just, I think, better than the industry averages last year, much better.
Yep.
I think the best in the industry last year, in my opinion. So shout out to Captain. But he's got it ranked point per dollar. This is Kikuchi, Green, Eovaldi, Skeens. Then it breaks off into a bunch of guys in the same area. So it's interesting there. Go ahead and check that out. Steve is in here offering props on White Sox win totals. That will put you in timeout, even though we love you. We're not going to be betting on White Sox win totals, Steve.
Especially the over. Imagine betting the White Sox over.
I like the energy. I like the aggression. We get to see aggressive Stevie on opening day. Stevie dribbles turning into Stevie baseballs.
Yep.
And we love to see that. Anything else, DC, on pitching? We didn't talk about Nathan Eovaldi. Captain's got him third in the mix. He's a favorite to get more than 5 strikeouts. He's a favorite to get into the 6th inning. He's going to be 6% owned.
Oh.
Anything on Eovaldi that you see there, or he's just out of your pool?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be leaning on them even more this year. Captain's, specifically his pitching projections have been very, very sharp, especially last year. I know they are very incorporate the prop market heavily, which I think is a very, very smart thing to do. But this one I'll disagree with. I'm not on Eovaldi here. I do like the Boston bats, frankly, quite a bit. So, I'm not going to agree on everything. To me, Eovaldi clearly behind Green, Kikuchi, and even Gore for upside in those cheaper pitchers. So no Eovaldi for me. It's just an opening day type of thing. Normally, 7,200 Eovaldi I'd be in. Today, I'm going to go a different direction.
Okay. Let's get to the games. Drop your questions in the chat as they come in, and we will do our best to get to those. We do, like DC said, have about 2.5 hours until lock on FanDuel and 3.5 to the main slate on DraftKings. We'll kick this off, though, with a game and a guy you've been talking about here in our nation's capital, the Phillies, defending National League East champions, going into Washington. The Nationals lineup has been posted, and we've got Zach Wheeler at 9,500, Mackenzie Gore at 6,600, and a lot of young talent in DC. I expect that they're going to be a tough out in the National League East, even if the wins aren't there in terms of numbers. I do think this is a team, and it was last year, it was a team that we were excited to watch, excited to play. You've got a bunch of base stealers in here. It's a bunch of young kids having fun at the yard. What are your thoughts here on the Phillies and the Nats?
Yeah, obviously one factor of opening day is there's just not that many good hitting spots, right? All these aces on the hill. We got cooler weather, a lot of places, a lot of pitchers' parks, or at least we'll play like pitchers' parks today. So it brings into teams that, we get a week or two into the regular season. You probably wouldn't really be considering, or at least I wouldn't, the Nationals against Zach Wheeler. But today, I think they're a reasonable contrarian option. It is, like you mentioned, a lineup that I like in general. I think they're underrated. I do think they're going to surprise some people this year. They just got a lot of exciting young hitters, right? Abrams, James Wood. I love what I saw from Luis Garcia last year. They've got youngster Dylan Cruz. I think he's going to hit 8th today, so not ideal, but he'll go lower owned because of it. Keeper Ruiz, pretty good hitting catcher. Josh Bell is cheap. They can do some damage. So I do think the Nationals, while not, a primary stack for me, Josh Bell, great BVP against Wheeler. I do think they're a good contrarian option. They are relatively cheap outside of Abrams and Wood. If you're playing a lot of lineups, I would mix in these Nationals, including I think some full stacks. I think you can 5-man this team if you want to. Can also pick off some power, speed, Abrams and Wood at the top of the lineup against Wheeler. Luis Garcia at 3,300 hitting third, I think is frankly an option in any format. One of the better values, even against Zach Wheeler. So I'm in on the Nationals. Not going crazy, but definitely a team I don't think should be overlooked, even against a pitcher of Zach Wheeler's caliber. So I like the Nationals. And then we're talking about the Phillies. Again, I do think Mackenzie Gore is in play, but this could also go south for him in a hurry. He's got a little bit of a home run issue, specifically, honestly, JT, to left-handed hitters. He's a lefty himself, but gave up a lot of power to lefties last year. So guys like Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, who I think the masses might kind of shy away from a little bit, the lefty-lefty matchup. I think those guys are fun plays. And then, you've got the right-handers with the traditional platoon advantage. Trey Turner, Alec Bohm, Castellanos, guys with a pretty good history of hitting lefties in general. And then I'll throw in this as well. Mackenzie Gore, very easy to steal bases against. Gave up 26 steals last year, one of the highest marks of any pitchers in baseball. So you got Trey Turner there at the top of the lineup. Should be off to the races if he gets on base. Could see stolen bases from – they don't have a lot of speed. JT Realmuto can run a little bit at the bottom of the lineup. But Trey Turner specifically, I think, is in a pretty good spot, both hitting and base stealing wise. So he's my favorite play on the Phillies. But wouldn't be surprised if this team, broke out with a big day against Mackenzie Gore. Could see this matchup, Gore versus the Phillies, kind of going either way. Wouldn't shock me to see Gore rack up some strikeouts. Also could see Phillies getting off to a hot start. Where'd you end up with on this game, JT?
I like Gore's talent. I like him better against teams that are a little bit lighter than these Phillies. I mean, maybe he's a little bit too cheap, but I don't see a need to really risk it on opening day with this matchup. No matter what. The ceiling is still limited by the fact that it's opening day, right? So leaning more on the established strikeout pitchers than going in. There's going to be plenty of times this season where I land on Mackenzie Gore. I like the offenses here, both of them, a little bit. Neither is my favorite play on the board today, but I think both of them are in play. And as you mentioned, the Nationals a bit contrarian. So like them in particular as minis, but we'll definitely have some 5-mans in the 150s. And we'll keep it rolling. We'll go on to the next game, DC. And the cowards in Texas will not open this roof. It is 75 degrees in Arlington. And the cowards in Texas will not open this roof. It's very upsetting. We hear all these big Texas lovers in chat, VIP, all these other guys. Texas. You guys are cowards. Open the fucking roof. Garrett Crochet, 9K. Nathan Eovaldi, 7,200. Lineups are out. This looks like a spot where, I don't know. We didn't, when this stadium opened, we didn't love offense here. And then last year, it was sneaky. There was a lot of runs scored. That was partially because of some of the pitching for the Rangers. They've got Eovaldi back. You've got Garrett Crochet on the other side. What are your thoughts in this one outside of obviously liking Crochet?
Yeah, Alex says the roof is open. I haven't seen.
And they tweeted out, the stadium tweeted out that the roof was closed. The roof in Houston is open, Alec. The roof in Houston is open. If you would like to double check and then come back and apologize, you're welcome to do so.
All right, we got the first roasting in chat of the MLB season. No better person to deliver it than Mr. JT Hayes over there. Get your shit together, Alec. On to Red Sox and Rangers. Yeah, guy Boyden in chat. Crochet gonna shove. Talk about Crochet already. I kind of lean that same direction. Won't go on and on about Crochet, but he is another one like Skeens where the arm talent is just off the chart. So he does have massive upside. Crochet does. I'll get to the Rangers bats because even though I like Crochet, I do think there's some interesting plays there. We'll say overall, JT, stolen bases have been one way that I think you can kind of get a little bit of an edge over the field. Not everybody looking at that stuff. This is a really, really good slate for base stealers, partly because there's so many aces. You oftentimes see this. Some of the best pitchers in baseball, they're not great at holding runners. I think partly because there's not very many runners to hold, right? So they're just not all that concerned about it. But anyway, Crochet and Eovaldi, you can run on both of these guys. Eovaldi, to me, JT, is a good pitcher, but not on the level of some of the arms, including Crochet on the opposite side that we see on this slate. So for that reason, I do like the Red Sox to do some damage here, specifically Jarren Duran leading off. He's expensive, 5,400, but for me, he's in the conversation for best overall hitters on the entire slate. So Jarren Duran, player I'm going to be well over the field, can run on Eovaldi. He's got power, got the platoon advantage. Really everything going for Duran here. So he's one of my favorite plays on the slate. Probably famous last words here, but I'm going to be really, really cautious with Rafael Devers to start the year until we see something from him. They signed Alex Bregman. Obviously, Devers was the third baseman. They signed Bregman late in free agency. There was some controversy about Devers being moved off third base. He said he didn't want to move. Originally, it kind of seemed like Bregman was going to play second base. Devers would keep third. They very quickly said, no, Bregman's going to be the third baseman. Now, Alex Cora said yesterday that Devers is going to be the DH the whole year. He's been unable to throw. Shoulder inflammation. He fell off at the end of last season. Long story short, I'm worried about Devers' health, that he's not ready to hit to his caliber right now. And listen, that could be wrong, right? You don't have to see a lot. If he comes out, he's swinging a good bat, then you say, okay, that wasn't correct. But until we see it from Devers, I'm going to be off him, including today for the most part. Maybe he makes it into some Red Sox stacks, but he is a player that I'm nervous about health-wise to begin the year. So, yeah, love Duran. Don't mind Bregman and Casas. Christian Campbell, rookie second baseman for the Red Sox. A lot of talent there, so he's a fun play, I think, at 3,100. And that bottom of the lineup for the Red Sox in general, potential wraparound stack here, I think, JT. Campbell, Willie Abreu, Connor Wong at catcher. I like Rafaela's talent. And then maybe you end it with Jarren Duran before Devers at 2 spots. So maybe a different approach for me with the Red Sox. With the back of the lineup stack ending with Duran, I do think makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, that's Red Sox. And then the Rangers side, obviously, Ian Crochet going to be over the field on him by a lot. But on non-Crochet teams, I do think the Rangers have some interesting bats. The right-handed power here, specifically Langford, I think is a really good play, power and speed against Crochet, but also Semien, Adolis Garcia, even guys like Berger and Josh Young. I wouldn't be surprised to see Crochet give up a home run or two in this one. These guys will be really low owned. You'll get leverage against a fairly highly owned pitcher. They've got speed. All of these, or at least Semien, Langford, and Garcia do. You can run on Crochet. So I do like these right-handed power speed combo bats for the Rangers at low ownership against Crochet. But the key play here is Crochet himself, who I do think is going to come out with a big strikeout performance here on opening day.
One thing about Devers, it seems like every opening day there's a player that comes into the season. There's been this kind of worry about this nagging thing or that nagging thing, and it turns out to be nothing. So,
yep.
I'm not gonna fully avoid Rafi Devers. He at some point, assuming health, he'll be up in the mid fives as well. 4,900 here, but Ceddanne Rafaela has been good. The end of last season, Connor Wong, an underrated offensive catcher for the Red Sox here. So definitely some place here in this game. We'll move on to the next one, and it's a matchup in Chicago, 57 degrees in Chicago. The Angels and the White Sox. Yusei Kikuchi, 6,900. Sean Burke, as we talked about, 6,300. And DC, the thing that strikes me here, even though the White Sox are the White Sox, Sean Burke is what he is, the bullpen is what it is It concerns me a little bit that we have this Angels team as the overwhelming chalk on opening day. Not that I'm not going to play them, but this is a team that could easily fall flat on its face in this spot. I think there are some decent plays here. Not much interest from me, at least, on the White Sox. What about you?
Yeah, so the Angels, are they going to be the most popular stack? I assume so.
Not by. I shouldn't say by a lot. They're going to be popular, but not. At least early on, it looks a little bit spread out. Maybe that condenses as we get closer to lock.
Yeah. By the way, pretty good weather overall here on opening day. It could be a lot worse, right? It's not super freezing anywhere. No, I don't think any risks of rainouts. So shout out to Kevin Roth and the weather gods giving us some decent weather here. Yeah. So the Angels, I mean, we talked about Sean Burke. I don't think there's really anything there. I don't think this is he did pitch well for like 20 innings in September to end the season. But overall, I mean, this is a 25-year-old non-prospect who had, a 5 ERA in AAA for a big portion of last year. His stuff isn't great. I just don't see it with Sean Burke. It's possible he's somewhat, improved over the offseason. We do see pitchers change all the time, but I'll have to see it from Burke before I'm going to buy in. And, along with all the good pitchers that we've got going today, JT, we also have fully rested and mostly healthy bullpens that are going to make scoring difficult. We are going to see mostly, in all likelihood, low-scoring games today. And so if you're talking about a team, that's going to break the slate and score 10-plus runs, there could very easily be only one of those teams today. There could be 0 teams that kind of really, really go off. But if you had to, and again, this is reflected in ownership, but gun to my head, if you had to give me one team that's going to go off for double-digit runs, one team whose pitching staff is going to implode, one team who's going to throw out a position player to throw the 9th inning here on opening day, it would 100% be the White Sox, who have an awful bullpen. I mean, Burke is starting because he's like the best pitcher they have, but it's just more of an indictment on the rest of their staff. So, yeah, if the Angels get going early here, you could just see them piling on runs throughout the game. So I do like the Angels. I am willing to play them into chalk. We probably won't have Mr. Trout with us for long on this glorious baseball season. I'm going to play him while he's out there and healthy. I mean, he's still one of the very best hitters in the game. When he's out there, had a monster spring. I think Trout, to me, is the top projected player on the entire slate. And you get a little bit of a discount there at 5,100. So I'm on Trout for sure. Also like really most of this lineup. Ward, Shanuel, Soler, that top 4 looks good. And then I like Rengifo, Ohapi, and Adele. 6, 7, 8 mini stack there too. 2 guys I'm leaving off mostly will be Kevin Newman and Tim Anderson. Not a lot of interest in those 2 individual bats, but the other 7 look good for me for the Angels. White Sox side, I'm mostly with you, JT. I'm not going to go to a ton here. I do think Luis Robert and Andrew Vaughn look like reasonable plays to me. Where'd you end up, Angels and White Sox?
Yeah, I'm with you. I could see the Angels putting up runs here. Like I said, I could also see them, scoring 2 runs.
But yes, 100%. By no means a lock situation.
Yeah, so it's just for me in the mix, right? Where do I want them?
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I think where I land on this is I don't want them to be my highest exposed team as 5-mans, but I'm fine with them creeping towards the top of that as 2-mans.
Yep.
And they'll be somewhere in the middle of my pool. It's just like, I mean, like you said, Nolan Shanuel, maybe he's good. Taylor Ward is usually good for about a month out of the year. And then the rest of the year, he just swings and misses. Trout is Trout. While he's healthy, he'll be, good for a 40-point day once a week. And then you won't see him for the rest of the season.
Did you just call him Travis Trout?
No, Trout is Trout.
No,
Trout is Trout. Thank you. Jorge Soler was absolutely brutal all of last season. Tim Anderson, no thank you. Rengifo is a guy I've always liked. He's also a guy with injury issues. Ohapi's a good offensive catcher. Joe Adell had a good 3-week stretch last year. It's just not a team that is, should be the highest owned team. I get the matchup. I get all that stuff. It's just there's some other teams, and maybe one of them is in this next game, DC, a team that I'm a little bit more interested in than the field. And that is the game in Houston. So I'm going to apologize now on the Houston part. The Houston roof is closed because it's raining in Houston, but I did see Globe Field put out that their roof is closed. If it's open, great. Maybe they've done so after my after my diatribe there. But Houston hosting the Mets, big hopes for the New York Mets, despite almost none of their pitchers being healthy. Clay Holmes going to make his first start as a starter, his New York Mets debut. He is 6K. Framber Valdez, 8,300. And when I look, DC, when I look at ownership, when I look at offenses, when I look at spots where maybe there's a slight edge in what the field thinks versus what might actually happen, I kind of land on how Framber Valdez tends to start a little bit slowly each season before he really gets going. And maybe this is a spot where the Mets at 5% ownership with Juan Soto in the lineup, with Vientos, who showed some things last year. Maybe this is a spot to get a little bit over the field on the Mets, who are just going to be 5% owned here. It's not a park we love. It's not a pitcher we often like taking advantage of. But early in the season seems to be the time to get on top of Framber Valdez. What are your thoughts here in this game, the Mets and the Astros?
Yeah, I don't mind that call on the Mets at all. Again, kind of like the Nationals where, most, what do we have, 8 games on this slate? 9 games. Most 9-game slates are not really going to, or at least, I think I can probably safely speak for both of us. You're not really going to be stacking up against Framber or Wheeler on most 9-game slates, but there's just not that many options today. We got really low team totals, so you do got to get, uncomfortable or different somewhere. And the Mets have a lot of really good hitters. Obviously, they get Soto, but Lindor, Alonso, Vientos. I can remember loving this team against lefties all year long, and frankly, being rewarded for it. A lot of power. You've got the Crawford boxes in left field, obviously. So it's tough to hit home runs off Framber. He's a ground ball guy. It's one of the reasons we don't necessarily love picking on him. But on this slate, I can see it. And Framber does give up a decent amount of base runners for how good he is too. He's kind of a ground ball pitcher. So I think the Mets stack does make some sense, especially at that low ownership, like you mentioned. So I'm with you. I'll be over the field on the Mets, and then also way over the field on the Astros, who I think have a close claim to being the best offense today. Behind the Angels for me, but this Clay Holmes thing, JT, he was a kind of a mediocre closer for the Yankees, obviously, for these last couple of years, goes over to the Mets. He's had a lot of hype behind him in spring training. He's pitched pretty well.
Everyone on the New York teams gets a lot of hype behind them.
I just, call it a gut call, if you will. I could just see this opening start for Clay Holmes going into Houston, just not going well for him. It's kind of a gut call. It kind of seems like you're on the same page. Right. Give me some Alvarez. Give me some Altuve. Isaac Paredes with the Crawford boxes pulls all those fly balls. I don't mind paying you down there at 3,400. And I could just see a little Clay Holmes implosion here. Again, more of a gut call than anything, but sounds like maybe you're on the same page.
Yeah, I think the back page of the New York Post tomorrow is going to be imploring Steve Cohen to sell the team. This is sort of the way this happens, right? First, by the way, Globe Life Field just now says that they're going to open the roof. Just now. So We are not going to take an L on that.
That better be the last thing you get wrong this season, JT. No more mistakes.
I was right until I wasn't. Let's be honest. I was right until they just put that out. So there you go. All right, let's move on. We are moving on to the Great American Small Park here in Cincinnati. John Daly, Alex does not win. Let's not get crazy.
Come on, JT. You gotta take an L when you get served one.
He was right. It was closed, and they just said they were going to open it. All right. Logan Webb 7.5 on DraftKings. Hunter Green 7.4. 62 degrees. Not a ton of humidity here, which is what we look for at Great American Ballpark, DC. Are you going to go with the theory that runs are always scored in this park? The theory that Logan Webb is not very good away from San Francisco? Where are you headed on this game?
Yeah, I'm not playing Logan Webb here. Again, different slate, not as many good pitching options. Maybe he'd be in play, and wouldn't be shocked if he pitched well, but to me, he's on the cut list in terms of pitching. I do like the Reds here, though. You mentioned Webb, very good career with the Giants, but if you look at it, it's pretty much every year. He's really, really good at home, and frankly, pretty mediocre when you get him out of San Francisco, especially when you get him out of the West Coast, and especially even more when you get him in a hitter-friendly park like Cincinnati. Now, it's not going to play like Cincinnati in the summer, but it should be a decent park to hit in today. You can also run on Mr. Webb, which, of course, is – well, Ellie De La Cruz can run on anybody, but he will be, I think, off to the races if he gets on base here against Webb. Looking at the rest of this Cincinnati lineup, I mean, they've got some dangerous bats. This is another team that I think gets on its more than its fair share of winners, and also, has a lot of pitchers probably go off against them as well. So Ellie De La Cruz hitting third today, top of the list for me, swinging from the left side, his better side of the plate. I'm not scared of Webb, who's not really a high strikeout guy, right? That's kind of one of the things you worry about with Cruz is can opposing pitchers just strike him out. Can't do damage, obviously, if you're walking back to the dugout. But Webb, not really that type of pitcher. Really good spot for Cruz here. I like Friedel and McLean in that 1 and 2 spot as well. Even Gavin Lux, pinch hit risk for sure, but also I think a pretty good chance to take Webb deep. The best place to go yard in Cincinnati is to right field, swinging from the left side. Lux makes a ton of sense. Candelario down there. Encarnacion Strand is 2,500, big power hitter. If you need a cheap first baseman, really most of this Reds lineup I like quite a bit. Cruz is the primary target, and then beyond him, I would rank it. I think Lux, Friedel, McLean, once you take into account pricing as well. So pretty high on the red side of the ball offensively. Giants, I think they're a decent place too. A little bit more torn on them, but certainly have the power upside. I like Lamont Wade, thinking he has a good chance to take Hunter Green deep. Again, another little bit of a pinch hit risk there, but I do think he could get off to a good start. So no surprise, like this game quite a bit for offense here and one of the better hitting spots of the slate.
These two teams, though, DC, right outside of Minnesota, probably the two most concerned with pinch hit risks, right? You've got Lux, who you mentioned, Spencer Steer, TJ Friedel, Jake Fraley. Those are guys who potentially, some more than others, could be in the mix. And then Lamont Adams is definitely coming out if Cincinnati brings in a left-handed pitcher. Jung-Ho Lee, we haven't seen in a while. Heliot Ramos is actually in there. So Yastrzemski, I guess not so bad on the San Francisco side today for pinch hitters. So we'll move on. The next game in Kansas City, where we've had that scratch, Tanner Bybee has been scratched for the Cleveland Guardians. It's going to be Ben Lively to start here against the Kansas City Royals, who get Jonathan India in his home opener debut. Cole Reagan's 8,600 against this Guardians team that we really didn't take pitchers against a lot last season just because of the lack of strikeouts. And, we'll see what happens here. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so I'm not playing Reagans today. Again, I don't think he's a crazy play, but like you mentioned, especially that top half of the Guardians lineup does make a lot of contact, hits lefties well. I do think the Guardians are in play here. And we should say, JT, I mean, this is from the sources that I use, by far the best hitting park overall today is Kauffman Stadium. What's going to be like 75 degrees in Kansas City with some winds blowing out. Again, it's still not a great park for home runs, but a really good park for limiting strikeouts, for batting average on balls in play. A good park for rallies is what it is. Kauffman Stadium in general, and especially today, and especially more when you compare it to the other options for ballparks on the slate. So I do think you're going to want a piece of this game offensively, especially, of course, JT, after Bybee was scratched for Ben Lively, who he had that really good run of results last year. I think it's honestly a complete fluke. I didn't buy it last year. I'm not buying it coming into the new season. And also, I mean, this is a food poisoning, right? I think scratch or an illness, whatever it was, but a surprise scratch. I believe Lively likely, woke up this morning with no thoughts that he's going to be making this, maybe he found out last night or whatever. But in any case, he wasn't even on the list to pitch anytime soon, I don't believe, for Cleveland. Now he's thrust into the opening day starting lineup in the worst pitching environment on the slate. Easy to envision this going south for Lively in a hurry, who I think is the second worst starting pitcher going today. Of course, better than Mr. Burke, but I think he's worse than everybody else just in terms of talent. You got the best park to hit in on the slate. I assume the Royals do they have the highest team total? I haven't seen it adjusted since the scratch, but I think it's
4.6 right now is what I'm seeing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's even light, frankly, for what the Royals could do here. So obviously Bobby Witt leads the way, but I mean, India hitting leadoff, I think is a good play. Actually surprised Vinny P is in the lineup. He had a little hamstring thing, but he's in there. Assume he's good to go if he's in there. I think he's a fun play. Salvador Perez, I think you'd make a case for him as the top catcher on this slate. And then some cheap guys at the bottom. I think all 9 guys for the Royals are in play. And I assume they'll be very popular with the park and the pitching switch, but I think rightfully so. I think they're right there with the Angels in terms of upside. You have to love the Royals here. And then I like the Guardians too. That especially, that 2-3, Jose Ramirez, Lane Thomas at 3,500 smashes lefties. I think he's one of the better outfielders on this, value outfielders on the slate. Jonkeski Noel, big power upside out of the 6 hole. He's 3K. Really like this game for offense overall. Reagan's very good pitcher, but I'm still not scared off of the Guardians entirely, JT.
Steve brings up a good point. Could this be a bullpen game for the Guardians? That's something that has been shown to limit offense in the major leagues. And it's the last thing you want to see, right? A team like the Guardians going left, right, every inning and a third. So maybe dampens, especially on a guy like Cavan Biggio. I mean, this is his, 8th franchise in the last 9 years, something like that. Maybe less than that amount of time. But so something to watch, something to think about here. If the Guardians come out and suggest that they have a plan in mind.
I do think, sorry to cut you off.
No.
I do think that the top 4 for the Royals are safe from pinch hit risk here. India, Witt, Vinny P, and then Salvador Perez. I believe, barring something unforeseen, should be in there the entire game. So even if Cleveland does end up going with the bullpen game, I think those 4, again, maybe tougher matchups, but they should at least stay in the game for all 9 innings.
Yep. Okay. We'll move on to the next game, which I think we're gonna breeze a little bit past this one. Not that there's not a lot to talk about. It's just that we've already talked about it all. Paul Skeens, 10K, heading into Miami. The roof will be open in Miami, DC. Sandy Alcantara, 7,700, making his return to the big leagues. A 3-6 run total for the Pirates, 3 for the Marlins. So not like the 2 7s, 2 8s that we saw from some teams last season. What are your thoughts here on the Pirates and the Marlins?
I think I'm passing on this game entirely for hitters, certainly from the Miami side. If I had to play one Miami hitter, it would definitely be Xavier Edwards leading off. Big speedster, and you can run on Skeens. So he would be the guy, but honestly, I don't know if I'm going to play any Marlins bats at all. Might just X them off entirely and roll with Mr. Skeens. Pirates certainly more interesting, but like I said, I do expect a very strong version of Alcantara to start the year here. I do think he's healthy, ready to go. Nice place to pitch. Extreme pitchers umpire and Bill Miller. Yeah, I mean, I think Reynolds, Cruz are fine plays against Alcantara, but beyond those two, I don't think I'm getting to much. And honestly, I'm not going to play a ton of those guys either. So love the pitchers here, especially Skeens, of course, and not going to be going to many bats here in Miami.
I think Pirates minis in particular are okay here because I don't think that this is one area we may disagree a little. I don't think you're going to see a ton more past the 5th inning, if that, of Sandy Alcantara today. So you get that Marlins bullpen, you get the roof open in Miami where it's 80 degrees. Pirates could put up some runs here, particularly late in the game. So don't mind those guys, but like you on the Marlins, very, very low. Next game, we head out San Diego, 68 degrees in San Diego, Pitchers Park, going to be a little bit cool there. Chris Sale, 9,300, Michael King, 8K. I have said I like Sale. I have said that as much as I am interested in the Braves winning and the Braves bouncing back, at least offensively this season, DC, I think maybe Michael King is a guy who's a little bit sneaky on opening day with their swing and miss tendencies, the fact that he's fully stretched out as well. Anything stand out to you here in this game in San Diego?
Yeah, again, I said I'm not going to play King, but I have no problem with it whatsoever. Very, very good pitcher. Strikeouts to be had against the Braves. I personally think there are easier routes today at pitcher, but I'm not going to push back on King too much. He is a pitcher that I anticipate playing a lot of this year, so I get it at the low ownership today. Nice price point, too, at 8K for King. Of the two pitchers, I definitely prefer Sale, but I do have Sale, like I said, frankly, a lot below Skeens, and as we talk here, quite a bit below Crochet as well. So, again, pitchers I think are okay here, Sale and King. There are better, or pitchers that I personally like better, Skeens and Crochet leading the charge. And then the cheap guys look good to me too. That pitcher, Kikuchi, to some extent, Gore. And then who was the other cheap pitcher we were looking at? Hunter Green. So, yeah, not going to end up with too much of these pitchers, more Sale than King for me. Bats here, I think if you're playing bats here, you're trying to – I'm not full stacking against these guys, but I do think you can pick off home runs, right? The Braves have a ton of power. Matt Olson, I think, is a fun play. I don't mind Michael Harris from the left side. And then on San Diego, Tatis would be, I think, the best play against Chris Sale. Machado, I think, is fine. Again, that right-handed power, I think, is where you want to end up on. So specifically those two guys, Tatis, Machado. But I'm pretty low on the bats overall in this game. And just a game I'm not going to have a ton of exposure to in general. But, yeah, Matt Olson and then the Padres power, I think, makes the most sense. I think you're trying to grab a home run or two. I'll be surprised if either of these pitchers gets blown up, and I don't think we're going to see a winning stack from either of these teams, but obviously stranger things have happened.
Well, it is baseball. It is baseball, and absolutely anything can happen in baseball.
Literally any stack could win here on opening day, right? That's just how baseball is. Yeah.
However, and that's the thing that I would point out here. you look at these run totals here, 3.5, 3.2, among the lower, but not much different than the 4.1, right? There's not a lot of daylight between the highs. This is one of those early in the season, we're not into the mid-90s weather. We're not into the humidity. We're not into that heavy wind. And it's one of those things where you get an error, right? You get an error in an inning that extends an inning. You get a big knock. You get to a bullpen early. That's the thing that's going to change this slate. If you're playing 150, I personally, and I am playing 150, DC. I don't know how you're playing your 150, but I'm going to pick maybe 4 or 5 teams, be at the 10, 11, 12% range, and then everyone else is going to be pretty much equal. And then I'm going to leave the Marlins, the White Sox, right?
Yeah.
Either out or, a lineup in there. I think this is one of those days where there's not a lot of clues outside of those 2 teams that we talked about to where, okay, I'm almost much more likely to see runs here than any other spot. But certainly this game not for offense is not on the top of my list either. The last game on the slate is in St. Louis, and all these games beginning right around the same time. So it's not like we have to wait a long time. All the lineups are out, as Steve Boynton points out. We have missed this sport. We have missed this certainty. We have missed this clarity several hours before we go ahead and submit our DFS lineups, DC. The Minnesota Twins, your Twins. You're wearing the Twins. They head into St. Louis. They're taking on the Cardinals, who are an interesting organization right now in the scheme of baseball. You've got Pablo Lopez at 8,200. We know how conservative Rocco Baldelli is, particularly early in the season with pitch counts and innings. We've got Sonny Gray, who's battled a mysterious illness. They say it was the flu. He's had the flu for a while. 7,800 against the Twins. The Twins, of course, notorious for sometimes not even letting a batter get into the box before they get subbed out. And then you have the Cardinals. What are your thoughts here? When I ran my initial stacks, my initial run of 150, I got a handful of Twins full stacks. And when I say a handful, I mean 3 or 4. Not a whole lot of Twins, even though there may be some evidence that this would be a good time to take advantage of Sonny Gray and the Cardinals bullpen.
Yeah, a lot to talk about here on the final game of the slate. I do have my Byron Buxton jersey on here. Needed to wear it before, he's injured for the year as he always goes down. So healthy today, hitting third, Byron Buxton. Like I said, the reign of terror of one Rocco Baldelli continues to plague us here for one more year. The pinch hitting master, like you said, been known to literally pinch hit. I think last year it might have been Larnach who's hitting 4th, or Wallner.
Yeah. Nobody's safe.
No, he'll literally pinch hit these guys before they even get into bat. We've seen it when other teams start an opener. That's not going to happen today against Sonny Gray in all likelihood. These guys, you never know. These guys should get one at bat, but Wallner and Larnach first and fourth are they're pinch hit risks. I mean, Sonny Gray could be out of this game. They've got, I think, 3 lefties in the pen. They're good plays against Sonny Gray, but if you get 2 at bats, you're probably going to be kicking yourself. Yeah, Larnach replaced in 46% of his starts. So there you go on Larnach. Probably happens today at some point. But that said, JT, bearing the lead a little bit, Sonny Gray, who does look like he's going to get some ownership on this slate, I'm actually surprised that he's making this start. Now, it could prove to be nothing, but Sonny Gray dealt with he got an injection in his forearm at the end of last year. So it kind of came into the spring with some health concerns. His performance in spring training has been abysmal. He's actually thrown a decent amount of innings, 14 innings, an ERA of 12.56. So he's given up some like 20 earned runs for Sonny Gray and 14.
Significant velocity dip there as well.
A ton of home runs given up. The velocity's been down. Now they're saying he's been sick. I mean, there's a lot of question marks for Sonny Gray here, who I think is kind of up there with, the Sean Burks and the Ben Lively's of this slate of highest probability to get absolutely crushed and maybe not make it out of the first inning, right? If he's not healthy, if the velocity's down, I think it really could go south for Sonny Gray. And St. Louis is not a very smart team. They're a team who maybe would stick with the pitcher who's not feeling his best. So this is an opportunity maybe to take advantage of something that perhaps the general, DFS player is missing. They're not necessarily going to know that Sonny Gray really does appear to be coming into this start at something less than, I think, potentially significantly less than 100% of himself. So I wish the Twins didn't pinch hit. And I wish that the two most, frankly, desirable bats against Sonny Gray, Wallner and Larnach, weren't the two biggest pinch hit risks in the lineup. So it makes it very tricky what to do with the Twins. I did bet the Twins to score in the first inning, first 5.
Yeah.
I posted, I think Sonny Gray's like over under pitch count in the first innings, like 19.5. The over was like plus 280. I posted that in Discord yesterday, which I think if it's still out there, it was on DraftKings, is I think a tremendous bet. Anyway, I do think the Twins do some damage here, but what are you doing? I mean, what are you doing with Larnach and Wallner and the rest of these two? I don't know what to do.
Yeah, look, I think the challenge here is as unintelligent as the Cardinals organization is baseball-wise, the whole sport knows that all you need to do with the Twins is bring in a pitcher of the opposite hand. We saw this down the stretch in its entirety, that teams, the Oakland A's did this to them in a series that I was watching. It was like, oh, boom, we're going to bring in someone else now, and everybody flips. And it's just such a poor strategy from the Twins because, to your point, how many lefties you're going to throw in a row, right? How many lefties you're going to actually do in a single game to stretch you out for the next 3 days. So it's a terrible strategy on both sides. The best case scenario, we've talked about the downsides. The best case scenario here is Sonny Gray is feeling a little better, but the velocity's still down. And he goes 3 1/3, but he gives up 3 or 4 home runs. And you get those points from your guys that are starting. Yep, they're going to get subbed out. But on this slate, that is not going to be, we expect, super high scoring. You've got a 60 or 70 from a Minnesota stack that no one is willing to play because of the fact that there's zero reliability in how many at-bats these guys are going to get. So for me personally, they're definitely not my top stack. They're not a core stack. They're in my pool. They're showing about 5% ownership here.
I think at 5% ownership, I'm willing to be okay with the pinch hit risk, right? If they were
maybe a little bit. What I'm saying is maybe I'll play 8%, 9%, right? 7, maybe 7, 8%. And I think that's enough. I think that's enough on this slate where if they pop, you're going to have some good lineups that have a chance to get into the top 10. And that's what we're playing for.
Yep. Agree with you entirely. If we were going to see the Twins at 15% or 20%, the pinch hit risk would be too much. At 5%, I do think you want to be over the field. Maybe not, like you said, I think you nailed it perfectly, JT. Maybe you get slightly over 1.5 or 2x the field, something like on the Twins. Just with the question marks around Sonny Gray, I would feel foolish not being over the field on a 5% Twin stack against a pitcher who we think there's a pretty good chance he's pitching at way less than 100%.
Absolutely. Okay. So that's all the games. Let's go through, what did we do last year? The top 3 teams to your DFS success today, DC?
Yeah, that is a good one to do. Chalky here, but Angels, Astros are definitely the top 2. And then we got to go with the Royals. I mean, those are going to be 3 popular teams for sure. But I do think they're clearly the 3 best spots. I'll be mixing it up with one-offs and stuff enough, I think, to hopefully get away with it. But yeah, those are my 3. Hard for me to get away with those 3. I guess Houston would be the one that's more contrarian. But yeah, Angels, Royals, and Astros, the 3 teams I'm looking at most closely.
I will go with the Mets, Houston, and I'll leave the Angels in there just because it's again, it's foolish to not play this team just because, hey, they're not really very good in the grand scheme of things when you think about what's on the opposite side. So we'll leave them in there, and then give us a home run call, DC.
Home run call. I don't think I specifically mentioned him by name, but rookie Cam Smith for the Astros, hitting third. He's 2,400. He was the big piece that returned from the Mets in the Kyle Tucker, or not from the Mets, the Cubs. The Cubs, yeah, and the Kyle Tucker deal. Big power. I heard a quote from some higher ups in Houston that Cam Smith could be the next 50, 60 home run guy. Again, a rookie. I'm not calling that, that's his upside. But that's the type of power that he possesses. Not a huge believer in Clay Holmes. I'll go with Mr. Cam Smith. Going to go deep for us at a cheap price point, too.
I'm taking a look here, and I will go. I've always liked this kid. And as much as it pains me to see him realizing his potential, he's always been very good against left-handed pitchers. Mark Vientos. 4,500 in the cleanup spot in that game in Houston. I would ask you which pitcher is most important to your success today, but I think we all know that for both of us, it's probably going to be Paul Skeens.
Yeah, Skeens and Crochet. Most of my lineups will have that pairing, and I'll be surprised if they don't combine for some fantasy goodness today.
Well, that does it for the opening day swing for the fences. Excited to have you all back with us for baseball. I do believe we are offering baseball as a standalone package, Josh. So go ahead and get on the website. If you have any questions, just email support or a captain at runpuresports.com, and he will go ahead and get you that information throughout the day. Lineups are in. I mean, this is beautiful. We're not waiting for coaches to decide who's starting. Lineups are in. Pitchers are in, and throughout the day we'll be in Discord. We'll be talking about the plays, talking about the games, talking about the night slate. There is a 3-4 game night slate tonight, so I'm sure that we will have some core plays up, or at least some thoughts here for all of you as we welcome baseball back for 2025. Good luck in all your contests today.